a little bit of not so improvement, tapi maybe additional lah, because at this point of time, saya rasa especially for semester 8, you have chosen the topics, and also my talk today will focus more on the components that need to be added on what maybe some tips with some examples on how you go about doing the writing your thesis. Okay, and thank you and Tayati for inviting me. I'm not an expert, but I'm just sharing some of my knowledge, a little bit, and also learn from the students. Along the way, they have, of course, I've supervised many students, and I also learned a lot from that supervision, of course. So thank you, Sophia, for helping me with this. Right. Okay, so I will review on chapter 1 and chapter 3. Ada about 40 plus slides. I will take about 1.5 the most, I hope. If I go too fast, if you're not sure, please raise your hands and ask me questions, if you're not clear of anything. Okay, to the next one. All right. Next slide, please, Sophia. Thank you. Now we understand, okay, why we do research, all right? It's part of your academic matters. It is part of your responsibility. But bear in mind, you need to do something that you like, and undergraduate thesis demonstrates the capacity to apply basic research skills in an area of interest to you. I believe that we have all students from various departments. We have TESOL, arts education, science, mathematics, and physical and health education students. So make sure that you do something that you like, and then you have learned all the subjects, the courses along the way since semester 1, and pick up things that that you really like. Okay, and why you do research? Because this is one way or a systematic approach or process, in collecting the information and analyzing the data. It's a systematic way. You've got to follow the steps, and it has a purpose. Reasons is you need it increase your understanding of the topic and the issue that you would like to do. All right, next paragraph. Sorry, next slide, please. Okay, these are the things that I talked just now. Why do you do research? Because you may ask a question to you. You may ask yourself this question, right? So research is because you want to know something. Why is this becoming, let's say, more prominent or regular, right? It concern with increasing our understanding, okay? Provide you with the information and knowledge needed for problem solving and decision makings. There will always be issues. There will always be time when you need to solve problems and to make decisions. You are future teachers, and in order to have a better understanding towards something, you need to do a bit of research, and academic exercise is one way how you actually apply the skills and doing it in a systematic way, right? Scientific way. So scientific research are being conducted in order to provide results. Gather data, information, and analyzing them is the only way for a researcher to come to a conclusion. All right, so it makes you different from maybe other people, other workers who have not gotten the chance to actually do it. Right. So the first question before you embark into research is your research interest and your specialization. What is it? And I'm sure at this point of time, you all have come up with your already decided on what you want to do. All right. Okay. Okay, this is just a very brief examples. Like for example, before you start, of course, you need to have your mind mapping drill down. Okay, you like sports. I'm sure there are physical education students here. So okay, it's huge, it's elaborate, it's a lot of things that you want to talk about. So this is just an example. You choose whether you want to do water sports, team, contact sports, and individual sports, let's say. And then that's the central idea. Think of a new related idea that comes up from the center. and you saw, oh, I like contact sports and I would like to do basketball because I was a player before, all right? And you want to focus on a specific group. You cannot do basketball, all athletes in Malaysia, for instance, or students who play basketballs in school. And you are more interested in identifying and looking into a specific group, say Paralympic. Okay, it's something not being done. Many research has been done about it, for example. So it's about the event or the tournament of Paralympics. So you and you bring it down to a smaller scope of the population by choosing those basketballers in a wheelchair, right? And your interest could be something on their performance. You want to find out about their performance. So roughly, you would like to do something on the physiological demands of competitive basketball among wheelchair athletes. So this is how it works. All right. Okay. Maybe some other examples in the next slide. Let's say you are TESOL students, you wanted to do something on ELT approaches and methods. Yeah, there are lots of them. This is just one example. Yeah, you can reflect or refresh all the courses that you have taken, or the information that you have gathered from the classes with your lecturers. All right, and you probably here you would like to do on total physical response, because what would be the best or the suitable group of students for this total physical response so you would like to do among the kindergarten kids. All right, so maybe you will do something on the learning strategy for ESL learners in kindergartens. Total physical response as a learning strategy among ESL kindergarten kids. Something like that. All right. So these are just to give you the ideas, especially for semester 7 students. Similarly, if you are into education, there are a lot of things that you can do. You can do an art education, even physical education, health education, science education, even STEM, yeah. And what is it that you would like to do, and whether it's under the sociology or psychology or psychosociology perspective, IT, so on and so forth. So most important thing is you to define the terms that you use, okay, and understand the subject that you want to choose on. Okay, all right, now we move on to this is the courses here. All right. This time around, I highlighted the aspects yang mana is important for you to have in each of your chapter. I'm given the responsibility to talk on chapter 1, 2, and 3. I'll try to compress them all within this 1.5 hour, and hopefully it will give some good information to you, all right? This may not be the perfect one because different researchers, different books have slightly different ways of highlighting or listing the aspects need to be put in each chapter. So basically, these are the most important aspects that you need to have in your chapter 1. Of course, don't forget, yeah, I would like to highlight here, in each chapter, please put the introduction and the conclusion. Okay, you start with introduction, you end the chapter with a conclusion. I'll explain later. All right, for chapter 1, basically, you have your introduction, yeah, a background of the study, the problem statement, purpose, research questions, definition of terms, significance of the study, and the limitation of the study. All right. Now, what do you write in the introduction? Okay, so basically, as I mentioned just now, I will not going to explain about what are like the 6 or 7 steps of research process, because there are so many researchers have suggested, you must follow these steps, but I will directly focus on the elements needed in the chapter, okay, and a bit of tips, of course. Right. Introduction is where you introduce your readers to the issue that you are exploring. Okay. How would you introduce that? So it's stated that try to make your first sentence a compelling hook. I will mix a Malay and English, yeah. just to draw attention. What does it mean trying to make your first sentence a compelling hook? Make it interesting, something that draw immediately the attention of your readers. Remember, they are your readers, your audience. Okay. At the same time, maybe you can also check what you have been doing next to you. You have your papers with you, right? And I also hope that you have your pen with you to jot down some information, because what the slides are slides showed here are just the information, the notes, short notes, but basically I will explain more about that. Okay, hope interesting things, whether you are from TESOL or arts or science or whatever, or physical education, you usually wanted to do something that draw the attention of your readers. For example, let's say, you know, this is quite a common statement. You start with a sentence like, Malaysia has been labeled as the country with the highest obesity problem in Southeast Asia. It's a big thing, isn't it? Is it true? We would like to know. So there goes to your next sentence. That's the reason. How is it connected with your research? Okay, maybe you want to do something on physical activities among adults, right? Or something like one of the public debate and on unemployment problem among graduates locally is the lack of English proficiency. Okay, so that creates question. Could be draw the attention of your readers. Is it related to what you're going to do next? Because you started with something that hopefully hook your readers. Maybe something about Malaysia small and medium-sized enterprises or SMEs are facing human capital development issues due to unskilled employees. Wow, really? Unskilled employees? We are moving towards developed country, and this is what we are talking about. So what about it? What is it that you want to talk about? Then because you want to do something on STEM or STEM education, maybe the effect of the human capital development. You know what I mean? All right. Okay. So that is just an example. Preamble introduction is very important. Okay. And it has to be coherent with the background of the study. It is related. The next point would be, now you are talking about the background of the study. It is a compilation of adequate information that is based on the analysis of the problem. Now we'll talk about the statement of problem later. You will begin with a general overview of your thesis topic and introduce main ideas. Many students lupa ataupun overlook this matter. It is okay, for you to keep reminding your readers and reminding yourself of what you are doing. How? Go back to keep looking at your topic. And I remember that was what my supervisor told me. Keep checking your topic. All right, keep you on track. Yeah, and that is why you need to introduce in each of the chapter. Okay, and you will not be going around here and there, but by highlighting and keep focusing on the topic will keep you on track, right? Okay, number 2, give information about the methodologies used, because in the background you're already giving them then an overview of what you're going to do. And in-depth information, of course, will be discussed later in the chapters that come after that. All right, and cite sources where necessary. All right, sources are very important. Okay, sources maksudnya di sini maybe some opinions ataupun point of views that you got from newspapers of some prominent personalities, some educators, ministers, for example. It's okay to have that. So that is because that is the issue that you want to look into. All right. Okay. Moving on. Okay. The background is where you are already established your topic. Okay. This is the most important. This is one of the most important parts. 1.2 is the statement of problem. This section should include a clear and concise statement of the goal of research. Yeah, it consists the issues that require solution. You do not do a research, talk about the issues, the problems, and then what happened? How would you suggest the solutions? How would you come up with the solution and suggest in your recommendations? All right. The problem is, it means is a what issue. What caused it to be a problem? What is the rationale of conducting a research? Why do you need to do this? Okay, it's important to who. So define the problem clearly. Then you can choose a suitable topic for the research project. Do not come to your supervisor, ma'am, I want to do this topic, okay or not? No, that's not the way, all right? When you have come up with a topic, that means you already have the background of the things that you want to do. You may have chosen a particular or suitable items or instruments that you want to use for your research, okay? Because in the middle, you can always play around with the topic. That is, it can be done later, right? So the basic structure for formulating a problem statement is important, right? So take note here. This is also when literature review comes in. You may have highlighted certain or previous research that state the issues, okay? This is when the knowledge of relevant literature is essential because it provides you some background information, suggests theoretical approaches, research gap which has not been covered. Okay, meaning here, of course, reading is very important. If you are not clear about something, how am I going to go about doing this? The only thing that can answer to your questions, apart from asking your supervisor, is read. Keep reading and keep digging in the information. All right. Do you have access to the library? You can not only go to the library physically, but you can also access it from your comfort of your home, your room, you know, and you have hundreds and thousands of journals, publications, books that you can get online, right? So by reading a lot more there, you will see there is a research gap. Research gap means there is some issue or aspects that has not been much highlighted in the research. You could be the one who will touch on that particular matter. So far, so good? Yeah? Okay. Right, moving on. So what are the key aspects when you want to, I'll give you an example here, right? The key aspects, the context when you want to write your statement of problems. So remember these four things, yeah, four aspects. The context, the issue, relevance, and objectives. Okay. When you have this, that means you have come out with a good statement problem. You have maybe in a paragraph, you have also come up with a nice problem statement there. Right. What is the example? This is an example. Okay, the context is I'm taking some example from health, physical education kind of thing. After exercising, the human body is depleted of hydration and electrolytes from sweating. So that's the context. Now, the issue is the person then needs to decide how best to rehydrate the body and replenish the lost electrolytes. Okay. How is it relevant? Because not all beverages are equally beneficial after exercise. The coach must decide what drink to offer volleyball players during a game or practice. Okay, how relevant is that, right? So the objective here is that in this experiment, we will investigate, or I will investigate, the electrolyte content found in standard sports drinks compared to what is found in plain coconut water. What do you think? Any PJK students here? What do you think is the research about? Can you maybe come up with the example of a topic or title of this research could be? I'm happy if there are some sounds, you know, response and feedbacks. Okay.
Maybe the effects of dehydration after an intense exercise.
Okay, thank you, Fazrul. The effects of dehydration after intense exercise. Yes, good. It is the effects of. And at the same time, here, what is the keyword that you see has been mentioned quite repeatedly? Rehydrate, dehydration, right? And one aspect that they want to look into is what?
Type of drinks.
Type of drinks, yes. The beverage, okay? The drinks. So, wow, are we going to have, we never knew that athletes will drink coconut water. And what about, do you call this other beverage, a sports drink? What kind of sports drinks? Okay, so I believe that this particular research wanted to see the effects of sports drinks during maybe high intensity, or you say a high performance training among who? Specifically volleyball players. You see? And you are now looking into a specific drink, which is isotonic drinks. You may choose, basically we don't give a specific name lah. We do not want to have the brand name, but you just use a general name, which is isotonic drinks. Okay. um
Energy
uh
drink.
Energy drinks, yes, true. Okay. Beverage, yeah, on sports performance, or the functional or beverage or isotonic drinks, or apa you kata tadi, energy drinks on sports performance among player. All right, so Nurul Hakimah put there, comparing the effectiveness in sport drinks and plain coconut in hydration. Yes, why not? Okay, it could be more interesting. It's like, oh, okay, how is that coconut can hydrate people? In experiment means there probably some kind of a lab matters need to be included here. So what is the component exists, okay, available in coconut water, and what are components we have in energy drinks? Yes, thank you. I'm sure you get the ideas now, right? Okay, very good. Moving on. Okay, done with your statement of problem. So you know how to write your statement of problem. Okay, now this is very, very important. Why you do it? Because there is a purpose for your research. Therefore, the purpose or the aims and the objectives of the study is the heart of your research, because the objectives are the ones that later giving you the road towards the methodology, the instruments used to achieve the objective, to find the answers. Right? I have mentioned this in the previous talk. When you want to write about the purpose and the objective of the study, so make sure that it has to be smart. Smart as in SMART, the keywords, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Okay, so how is it, how can you be more specific here? Yeah, it means it is focused. Specific means focus, because research objective basically it outlines the specific steps that you will take to achieve your research aim. Yeah, okay. Aims or purpose is a bit general. Objectives are very specific, and most of the time you list them. Like objective number 1 is, objective number 2 is what, and objective number 3 is what. Very specific. Do it that way. Okay, make it specific. Okay, the research objectives will basically define the WH questions, the what, why, who, when, and how questions, if you can answer that. Yeah. Now, specific is precise about what you're going to do. If you want to talk about isotonic drinks, a beverage, you focus on that. You're not talking about tongkat ali drinks, for example, you know. Okay, so and it's a matter of a simple yes or no questions lah for being specific. Yeah, measurable, you boleh measure what you are going to do. Basically is describable. Like what evidence will you have if you reach your goal? Okay, you can measure that. Is it significant? You know, it's like you have your Likert scale can from 1 to 5. How would you measure that? How would you measure your performance, for example? Is it no performance at all, or highest performance. That's measurable. Okay, even if you do qualitative, it has to be measurable as well. Right. Achievable, sensible. Please be sensible. Do not attempt too much. Okay. Less ambitious but completed objective is better than over ambitious, the one that you could not possibly achieve. Right? Make it moving on to that lah, realistic. Realistic means it's realistic in terms of your time, effort, money, right, skills and sebagainya. Okay, let's say you want to do something on you can give me examples, from what you are doing or what you think you want to do in the future, in next semester for your research. You can ask whether it's realistic or not. Time bound means the time constraint, within the time specific time when you need to complete the research, right? And many came up with quite last minute job. Okay, for me, for my supervisor, if you go to school for your practicum, which is in semester 7, that is the time when you should collect the data, right? And that means you've got to go to the ethics approval first. Collect data when you are doing the work, so that you can collect data whether your students, the students that you are teaching, whether you do quantitative or qualitative. Let's say if you are TESOL students, you want to collect data on the not performance, maybe effectiveness or like classroom style. You can take videos or you can observe. Okay, and you need that time, and you need the accessibility, the access to the place, to the subjects. If you do quantitative, you can just simply give the questionnaires, or you can interview your respondents. Right? If you do it in school where you are teaching, you can have access to that. Yeah, of course, with the approval of the ethics, from the ethics approval, and you can use the teachers, you can have the students, even the parents, if it's needed. Right? But after that, if you come back, then most students, okay, they start looking at who? Their friends. Part 8 students, PJK students, science students, art students. You are collecting information from your own friends. Okay, so it shows that you are running out of time there. Okay, because you kind of desperate. So focus, think about it. In other words, is there a time in your schedule to allow for unexpected delays? Okay, so that's why when I have my students, I will always ask them to give me your Gantt chart. When do you expect to submit your final draft or your first draft of your complete draft? Yeah, right. Okay. So far so good. You understand? Yeah, it's very important to do it. I will give the example later. Okay, now this is the example, to identify the level of physical activity involvement among secondary school students. Do you think it has all the SMART methods, the SMART elements there? Is it specific? Measurable? Achievable? Realistic? Time bound? Think about it, all right? Okay. But then again, secondary school students, is it in Malaysia? Is it in Sabah, Sarawak? Is it in Selangor or Shah Alam? Okay. So you have to bring down into a more specific area of focus. Okay. Or to find out if there is a difference in quiz scores between students exposed to direct instruction and flipped classrooms. Is it SMART? Okay. Or you want to investigate relationship between leisure activities and personal well-being. Okay. Again, is it SMART? Yeah. Okay, Nadira, let me read the question. Thank you. Nadira, if my research objective is to determine the effects of online tasks on students' mathematics performance, is it acceptable? Yes, it is acceptable. So that is specific. Okay, when you write your objective, thank you for the question. When you write your objectives, remember to use the kita panggil a form of action. That means verbs. To investigate, to identify, to discover, to evaluate, so on and so forth. So that's the objective of the study. So check your objectives, yeah. Just have one at a time. You cannot say to identify the level of physical activity and level of apa lagi, level of involvement in recreation among what? Then you can break it down into the second objective. You know what I mean? One variable for one objective. So you can see, I will explain later in chapter 3 how are these actually sequential nicely. Okay, that's the trick. All right, moving on. This is an example. Can you try? This is a bit simple exercise. So not the best, yeah. Just taking some from real ni lah. Thank you, most welcome. Research. The title is The Relationship Between Leisure Activities and Psychological Wellbeing Among Youth During COVID-19. Macam tak complete kan? COVID-19 lockdown. All right, so that's the research. If you see that I'm using a lot of leisure because that's my interest, yeah. All right, so the research objectives, number one, to identify the types of leisure activities participated among youth during COVID-19 lockdown, for example. So it's specific enough, right? You have to identify types. Okay. Research question 2, you want to examine the effects of psychological well-being among youth during COVID-19 lockdown. Okay. First, leisure activities, and then you want to find out the psychological well-being. Because with these two aspects, you want to find out, you want to investigate for research objective number 3, the relationship between leisure activities and psychological well-being among youth during COVID-19 lockdown. Okay, so nampak sebelah-sebelah pula. Make it bigger for the title, for the slides. Okay. All right. So, can you come up with your research questions for number 1, number 2, and number 3? You can write it down, or anybody can just volunteer. Anyone? It's quite simple, yeah. It's basic English. You just transform the statement into a question. Yes, sure.
So what are the types of leisure activities participated among youth during COVID-19? So just add what are the types.
Come again, what?
What are the types
Yes,
of leisure activities?
Yeah. What are the types of leisure activities? About research question number 2.
Me?
Anyone?
Sorry, just add on the what are the effects.
Come again?
Just add on what are the effects of psychological well-being among youth.
What are the effects of psychological? Yes, what is just what, yeah? And number 3? Anyone?
I think it's practically the same.
Exactly, it's practically the same. So, yeah, you know it. But trust me, when we receive research objectives and research questions, sometimes, most of the time, they are not tally at all. You have a different object. You have one objective, research objective number 1. Suddenly, the research question is totally different. How is that so? All right. This may seem very simple, but this is when students tend to make a lot of mistakes. Okay. Right. Thank you. Next, move to the next slide. All right. So these are the ones that I said. Research questions. Okay. Not only that, then you have to remember when you have come up or you have formulated the research objective and the research questions, you know already. You don't simply do it and then, oh my God, what are the types of leisure activities? How do I find psychological well-being? What is it? You just simply want to do it because it's there in the journals and you find it, oh, this is interesting. And you have already come up this way, this level, and show it to your supervisors. All right, very good, supervisor say. Can I see your instruments? How are you going to measure this? Oh, I do not know, man. Can you help me? So that means here, what is important also is if you can come up and you have already identified the suitable instruments to measure your leisure activities and the psychological well-being. Okay, for these examples, I just give us an example. Let's say for leisure activities, you have leisure activities inventory dimension, okay, which has been proposed, which has been uh, um, done and implemented, by researchers and verified as well. Okay, so the types of activities may have different dimensions: active, passive, social activities. Okay, so that is how the list and the items come up in the questionnaire. And the psychological well-being, for instance, it could be something that you took from the World Health Organization 5 well-being index, right, to measure the global well-being. And everything that you have decided to put on, you are already you will mention, and you will mention it in chapter 3, and you will explain what are the instruments used. Okay, all right. Okay, moving on. So I believe that for this you choose both variables and they could use Likert scale, similar Likert scale, so that you can analyze them to see the relation. Okay, right. Otherwise, it's difficult for you to match. Okay, I'm sure you have learned that yesterday with Dr. Farid on the chapter 4 and chapter 5, and Dr. Leah will talk about on the statistics and SPSS. Right. So research hypothesis, it depends if you want to put it. Yeah, I just mentioned it here. If you are doing quantitative research, it is usually, though not always necessary, to convert your research question into a specific format or a hypothesis. Sophia, can you just put the apa tu? Not side by side. I'm seeing my face and the slides here. I'm not happy to see my face. It's okay. Show the slides. Okay, never mind. Never mind if it's not, if it's kind of difficult. Tak apalah, it's okay. Because I would like to see the names, those something like this, so I can see the names of people responded. So just a slide. Don't need to put myself next to the slides. Okay, research hypothesis just now. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. All right. So if you are doing a quantitative, it is usually though not always necessary to convert your research question into a specific format or a hypothesis. Basically, we adopt this in experimental or quasi-experimental research methods. Yeah, research hypothesis is a statement created and speculate the outcome of the research. Like for example, smoking cigarettes daily leads to lung cancer. So that's a simple hypothesis. Or there is no significant change in an individual's work habits, whether they get 8 hours or 9 hours of sleep. So that's a null hypothesis. So it depends. Yeah, if you want to put the hypothesis, you can refer and consult your supervisor. Right. Now moving on to the next aspect, which is the definition of terms. Okay, this is also something that students are not aware on what's the right way to do it. Okay, so definition of terms, or we call it operational definition, are keywords that you use in the title, the problem statement, and hypothesis that should be defined as clearly as possible. Okay, even the subjects. It is not dictionary definition. You can say Weber's dictionary. It is according to the Weber's dictionary. It states that blah 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 blah. No, Okay, because operational definition gives an obvious, precise, and communicable meaning to a concept. Bless you. Measuring the concepts and variables we are studying or the terms we are using in our research. For example, this is a simple example. Yeah. Basically, the definition of terms adalah words that we are used could be a different meaning in a different context, because what the terms or words that you used that could be it's the same word but could be giving a different understanding for a different research by your friends or other people, other researcher, and these words is in or within your research context. Okay, let's say physical activities through mini games, intervention towards desirable behavior for autism kids. Okay, so what are the terms that you need to define here? This is the your title. What are the terms that you need to define here? You can write it down.
Desirable behavior.
Yes, or definitely desirable behaviors. Yes, Nur Hakimah. Physical activities you must define. Okay, mini games. Yes. Lagi. Autism. Yeah, autism. Very, very important. Thank you, Nur Hakimah. Okay, because you need to define physical activities. Yes, Bashira, autism kids. Okay. You mean kids? Age range of kids that you are referring to, because kids can be defined as within a range of, let's say, according to Erickson's social life stages, different, but which philosopher of which research that you're following, okay, the range of age, right? Physical activities, okay, are you referring to outdoor, active, passive, yeah? Or mini games? What do you mean by mini games? So in this context, it's a previous research. This researcher is actually referring to mini games that is more on the context of interaction patterns. Yeah, interaction patterns. Some of the mini games that the research is done, the researcher did was on multilateral or extra individual kind of things. So the examples are Ting Tang, not Ting Tang, Tang Tang, Tang Tang, yeah? Ting Ting, Ting Ting, or hopscotch, got it, for mini games. Okay, and autism. What do you mean by autism? If you have a standard definition, a clinical definition of autism. However, in this particular research, the autism kids referred to, you know, ADHD children from age 6 to 12 years old. So you refer to your research. You say in this particular research, okay, or mild autism, right? You see what I mean? So it has to be defined properly according to your research. Okay, so far so good. I'm sure you can do this and look back to your paper and see whether you have given all the definition from the variables, from the words that you mentioned in your titles, as well as in your problem statement, and also subjects. Okay, moving on. 1.6, your significance of the study. Okay, the significance of the study is also an element that need to be added into your chapter 1. Okay, because usually want to know how significant is your study, right? To which particular group. So it's about why. Why do you do it and for who? Okay, it's the reasons for you to conduct the research. Therefore, you must explain it in what way that this research is important. That is your contribution to several aspects. Your contribution to the body of knowledge, you know. For example, you are talking about the importance of multimedia or arts in developing social skills mungkin, right? So you think it's very important, that is significant. Yeah, what you do is small but significant, right? And you are introducing new product. Let's say art education, you come up with products. Yeah, most of you are doing product-based research. Okay, so what kind of product they have come out? Let's say something that is beneficial for the society, recycling. Okay, you come up with a product like let's say a wrapper, plastic wrapper kan banyak kan dia dibuang Christmas time, birthday time, people just buy wrappers and throw them away. But you came up with an invention using beeswax as for wrapper. So that is very, very significant. Yeah. Okay. And for who? Okay. Using it for the benefits, the contributions of the research to the society at large, to a specific group of people. Yeah. For the autism kids, specific, to students of special needs, to the Ministry of Education, a particular organization, because your supervisor has got grants from a particular organization and you have to do it, and therefore one of the significance of the study is how it benefits the particular organization. Yeah. All right. So make sure that you describe clearly how the study can be used in practice, what individuals or group can benefit from this new knowledge, and how will the study contribute to the improvement of the profession or in the area that you the field of study that you are in. All right. Okay. So far so good. Okay. So you can see, wow, my study is very, very good. I know I can see the significance of my study now. All right. Whether you are arts or science or math, physical education, and even TESOL. Okay. All right. And of course, you can't do the whole thing, whatever that is came across into your mind. There must be a limit to it. So there goes the limitation of the study. Right. The limitations, not your personal limitation, okay? Don't laugh and don't say, oh no, we know this. No, because I came across a lot of writings about the limitation. I don't have time, and so forth, about your kind of personal limitations. It's basically the procedures. The limitation is the procedures of the study. It's a constraint faced throughout the project that only affect your research work. Okay. For example, this is an example. The title of your research is Students of Single Mothers and Their Performance in Schools. So you have difficulties in getting information truly and sincerely from single mothers due to privacy respondents. That is your limitations. So instead of getting, let's say you expect to get 100, you only get 80. Okay, so that's your limitation. So we know that you have done your best. You have gone through far beyond, know what is the steps taken in doing your research. And there is some limitation from the angle of your research, okay, that you can't, that you have to face. All right, so do it and say it in your limitations of study. So as readers, your supervisor and other people who read your work will see that the sincerity of your study, okay? And the limitation is the scope of study researchers should confine. You are talking about performance, academic performance, confined within the academic performance, not physical activities performance. That's what I meant. Okay, right? So that's the elements, the aspect that I want to highlight also. So it defines how a term, word, or phrase is used when it's applied in a specific context. Valid, should measure what it's supposed to measure, and ensure a concise description of concept and terms applied to a specific situation. Okay. For example, macam constraint tadilah, macam delimitation, you talk about leisure constraint. You're talking about psychological well-being sahaja, not overall well-being or physiological well-being or physical well-being. So focus on that. Okay. All right, so this is not in the itemized list in chapter 1, but I highlight this research ethics because your part 8, you're very lucky because you missed this, and coming soon, each one has to go through the research ethics. And you may ask, you may be wondering, why do you have to do this? You know, it's taxing. We got to go through all the forms and so on and so forth. But you see, when you do research, you must maintain the objectivity and the integrity. You must respect the dignity of the respondents, be it kids. Okay, if you think that they are just kids, you can just ask them anything. No, you're wrong. All right, even 4 years small kids do have dignity, and what more adults and veterans. Okay, and you go if you want to do research on specific special learning needs or disabilities, they have to go through even more stringent protocols, ethics. Okay, that is also to preserve confidentiality of personal data collected. Right, so the basic 5 basic ethics, kita tak nak invasion of privacy. Okay, should not risk physical, psychological, and moral harm to respondents. You're talking, let's say, physical education. Okay, you want to do something on physical, so you have to do testing. You might ask them to jump, for example, or you want to look into the warming up activities. You want to compare between static and juga static versus what? DJ students? Answer me later, okay? Static warming up versus dynamic. Yes, true. Thank you, Munira. All right, so, but you need them to do certain things and you have to make sure whether it is okay or not, and you get permission from the parents. That's for minor lah. Kalau you dapatkan below 12 years old, then there is another form that you need to fill in for the ethic approval. Okay, and should not only make aware that they are being studied, but also obtain their permission. You say, okay, you want to do observation. You can't just simply observe like one particular group and do it secretly. Okay, nanti orang ingat you some kind of pervert, watching them, that is dangerous. So application for research ethics should be put to a variety of users. That's the reason why we have research ethics. Okay, any questions? You can sip water. Done with chapter 1. Any question for chapter 1? Allow me to take some drinks. So far so good? Yeah? Okay or not?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
doctor.
Thank you. All right. So shall we move on to chapter 2? Okay. Okay, chapter 1 tu ada siapa-siapa nak tanya ke nak tunjuk ke? Ataupun kita leave it until ni lah kejap lagi ya. Okay. Chapter 2 ni something like, I'm not so sure whether you like to do chapter 2. It might not that easy, okay? You need to read. You need to read, you need to go through literature, you need to read journals, okay? That's the only way for you to practice yourself, understanding, and also a bit, of course, writing, okay? This is basically the what aspects of your research, okay? And what is literature review? It's a type of writing produced and published in the form of books, journals, magazines, tabloids, even newspapers, which the researcher could make references to when carrying out own research. When you want to do something, we want to do research, we always refer to the previous research. From that, we know, okay, that you are not the only one who does this. That this has been done before, not specifically or directly, but the area of interest could be, or the issues, or the population, or the samples that you just has been researched before. Okay, and you can look into how it is being conducted. You can learn a lot from previous research. Who are the samples? What are the instruments? Okay, and who are the researchers, who are the experts, that have done this within their area of expertise, or area of specialization. All right, that goes with the theories, the models. You talk about a lot of theories, philosophers in your area, in education, you know those people, the names, And this is where literature review comes in. So it's a collection of all scholarly writings on the topic and a comprehensive review of the research that is part of a larger work. Okay, so keep track when you read, keep track on the citation. Make sure you take note and you record all the information that you have read and that you took, that you have taken. You're going to be used in your research. Okay, but please bear in mind, for me, at this level, for your academic exercise, it may not be too not too comprehensive, but the depth level could not be the same as full research at the master's or the definitely PhD level. Okay, that will be a different, you need 1 whole day or 2 days or 3 days just talking about review of literature. All right, so as for now, for you, how do you do your review? How would you review your paper? Okay, so it's all about integration, integrate and synthesize what you find. All right, moving on. Okay, how do I get started? Okay, this is where you need a clearly defined topic. At this particular point of time, you already have your topic. You know what you're going to do. Okay, kalau kita refer balik the previous slides in chapter 1, I know some of the topics that I have mentioned tadi kan. So to remember, what are the variables that you're going to use? So these will direct you to search for the particular journals and articles that are relevant to your research matters. Okay, number 1, topic you choose and explore. Number 2, you research and collect the information, do the research and collect the information. Number 3, you read the articles, take notes and shape ideas. Read articles means serious reading, means active reading, means you ask a lot of questions in your mind about the articles. The WH questions, what, when, who, how, and so on and so forth. So that's the reason why in, I'm talking about the department, the physical education department, for semester 1, I introduced this course on leisure studies, okay? It's not just about understanding leisure and do some kind of only just some research on activity, but is to introduce the students in part 1 on basic research. So one of the assignment is for them to do, I'm sure most of you have done the article review. And a simple assignment which I wanted them to do is just to identify all the WH questions there. What's the topic? What are the instruments? Who are the authors? What is the issue? What are the aims, the objectives of the research? What are the research questions? What are the instrumentation or what the methodology used? What are the findings and what are the recommendations? You have that or you understand, okay? And then you start writing, revise and proofread. Please, proofread your work. You can't just simply write, I will totally shut down and just give to your supervisor, get your supervisor to read it. Come on, all right? Please don't do that, all right? Okay. What do you have in chapter 2? Next. Basically, these are the aspects that you need to have, all right? You must, again, as I mentioned, have your introduction and your conclusion. It's very important. And then 2.1 is what are the body of the literature, is your general area of your research. If you're talking about leisure, you're talking about ESL, you're talking about art education, you give a general understanding of area of research, okay? Then underlying theory, and then the variables used from previous literature. Nampak aja 2.1 pointer sikit, tapi variables dia apa? Okay, tadi tajuk apa ya kita buat? Let's say tajuk macam tadi lah, sports drink, effects of sports drinks, let's say during high intensity training. So the variables, you are talking about sports drinks or energy drinks. You will talk about high intensity trainings. You will talk about players, volleyball players or volleyballs. So ada banyak variables dekat situ. Macam tadi, physical activities through mini games, for example, intervention and so on. So what are the variables mentioned? Therefore, you must have that variables from previous research in this under this category. Okay, so you separate them accordingly. Yeah? You cannot mix them all together. And if there's a research about relationship between item 1 and 2 or variable 1 and 2, then also you can find research about the relationships between these two variables and put it under a subcategory or subtopic. Okay, and next one is the theoretical framework. This is also very important that many students missed it. Okay, your theoretical framework is important because it gives you the ideas, it gives you the explanation of what you do based on the research, based on the theories or models that you have chosen, and put it in a form of a framework, yeah, under your literature review. And of course, do not forget to put your conclusion, which summarize the whole thing that you have done in the chapter 2. Okay, give a summary of what you did. Bila kita, it's like you go to a person's house, you say Assalamualaikum, you give your reasons, they come here, and you leave the house, you say thank you very much, bye-bye. So that's a conclusion. Yeah, you see, mesti ada pembuka dan penutup. Right. So what are these components? Can you move on to the next slide? Okay, since we know that literature review here, so Nur Hakimah asked me question, can I say that the literature review is an extended version of the statement of the problem? Since I have already mentioned few of the research article and the statement of the problem. Yes, can. I don't see there's nothing wrong with it, because you have mentioned some in your problem statement. Remember, I mentioned just now, you may cite certain literature in your background also as in your statement of problem, because you are referring to the previous research as well. Problems has come up before. And in chapter 2, you give more detail or more comprehensive based on the review that you have mentioned before. Yes. Okay, Nurul? Hope I've answered the questions. Okay, thank you. Good question. Right, now the introduction. Welcome. Again, this is the preamble. You must do it. Okay, jangan terus-terus tiba-tiba je. Straight to the point. If you nak meminang orang pun mesti ada bunga-bunga kan. Kena berbahasa, kena memberikan preamble yang cantik. Baru orang nampak, wow, you are so berbudi bahasa. Sama juga lah when you write. Say your lecturer, your supervisor say, very good. You know, she introduced the topic because your supervisor has so many research to read on. So sometimes she has to remember, to recall what is this, what Halimah is doing, yeah. So I've got to go back, pusing balik tengok dia punya, oh, okay, research. So by having your introduction, you actually give a brief discussion about the problem statement, the purpose of the study, and the research questions, research design, and data collection techniques to provide an appropriate context for the review. Okay, so supervisor baca pun happy saja. Okay, you usually want to get good grades, right? Even when you go for an interview for teachers, not practical, sorry, placement. I believe some of them will ask you about what did you do for your thesis or your academic exercise, especially when you do something about schools. Actually, you want to talk about it in a most enthusiastic way, because you know you've done a good job doing your research, because you've gone through the process, the scientific ways, steps of doing it, and you're so happy to talk about it. Okay, trust me, you'll be very happy. Okay, now, and then conclude this section by mentioning that you will present the theoretical framework followed by critical analysis of related research studies. Okay, theoretical, nanti saya akan tunjukkan contoh what are the theoretical framework that you should put. Right. Okay, dah sampai theoretical framework ya. Alright. So tak apa. So why is that important? Bila saya sebut integrated and synthesized tadi dalam dia punya literature review tadi, how do you review the literature that you find? Okay, it's important. Yes, tadi yang awal tu lah saya sebut you topic, you explore, kemudian you collect the information, you read and you take notes and shape ideas, and then you write, revise and proofread. Okay, you can have the slides later. All right. some may think that why do we have to do literature review? It's important, okay? Because literature review describes how your proposed research is related to prior research in statistics. Okay, kejap lagi saya sebut 2.2 I'm still talking about 2.1 just now. It's okay. It's also shows the originality, the relevance of your research problems. That to show that your research is different from other researchers or statisticians. And literature review juga penting because it justifies your proposed methodology. Some people may do similar to you, but they have different methodology. So you have a different methodology, and you use and you refer to different researchers, and you review their work. Okay, and it also demonstrates your preparedness to complete the research. So you know how much you have read, how much information that you've gone through, and take into consideration, and to put it and highlight it and refer to it in your research. Okay, all right. 2.2, the theoretical framework. Okay, so what is theoretical framework? Okay, it says that it defines the key concepts in your research, proposes relations between them, and discusses relevant theories based on a literature review. Okay, when we talk about theories, you don't come up with your own theory. Theory came from previous researchers. Okay, and you take them, and because they came up with theory, because they have done extensive research and they are well known in their area of specialization. Okay, so basically theoretical framework ni adalah the interaction of two or more variables, or factors about a phenomenon, ataupun the structure that you will that you connect that connect the theories together. Okay, let's see if I give example framework. Let's say kejap ya. Okay, something different lah. The example ni, you may not learn it specifically in any of your courses, but I'm sure you all knows about leadership, leadership styles, kan? Tahu kan? Authoritarian, democratic, and also laissez-faire kind of leadership styles. And you want to mention and you want to relate with job performance or job satisfaction. Okay, when you go to school, nanti benda tu related. Whether your principals punya leadership styles affect or not the teacher's job performance or job satisfaction. So kejap lagi, belakang balik. Still giving the example of the theoretical framework tadi. So what are the theories in the leadership styles and job satisfaction? Okay, so you have the theory examples of theories in education. Mungkin you akan gunakan Piaget's theory of cognitive development, and as an example of Holberg's theory of moral development, or Bowlby's attachment theory, or even Bandura's social learning theory. You know these names, Bandura and all, right? Okay, so you have that one particular framework ataupun models. Okay, so you can use one or two and you connect them all together in your research about leadership style, okay, principals leadership style, and teachers job performance, for example. I'm just giving an example there. Okay, so let's see what do we have in 2.3. Yes, okay. No, framework belakang lagi. Yes, thank you. Okay, this is the example, all right? This is on ESL, or English as Second Learners, Second Language Learners, okay? So this is an example of a framework. The tajuk is something about investigating the relationship between language anxiety and speaking skills, and to determine the effect of task-based approach of learner speaking anxiety. What are the theories that you use here? TESOL students, anyone? Any TESOL students here?
Come again?
What are the theories here that you put in this framework? Fazrul?
I would say
It's written there actually.
wait. Activity. The present speaking anxiety.
Ah,
I think it would be speaking activity, I think.
speaking activity, anxiety or
Ah,
activity.
it is the one proposed by, I forgot the name, but it is a community-based learning.
Okay, so from here, which aspect that is actually kat sini kat mana? Where is the theory? Activity theory? Can, yeah, yes, activity theory. And the left task-based approach is also a theory. It's an approach, okay, by this particular person, okay. Or what else? Our second language acquisition is a theory, isn't it, Fazrul?
Yes, yes, that's
Yes,
the
so
one.
that's the
But
theory that you use. It's a
uh,
second language acquisition theory. What is it? What is it about, Fazrul? About second language acquisition? What does it say?
it's about communication apprehension, negative evaluation, and English language classroom anxiety. Oh, was it there?
What is the meaning? I mean, what do you understand about second language acquisition? Judge,
Second
judge
language
nak test.
is how a learner learns a second language. I mean, how do they acquire the language, be it from their parents' mother tongue? I mean, from their community around them.
Yeah,
From what I understand from SLA so far.
yes. Thank you. Yeah, it's correct, Fazrul. Thank you. Yeah, because second language acquisition I acquired between whether it is innate, inborn with, or it's they learn from the environment. Let's say if your parents do not speak language, doesn't mean that you can't speak language, because you can learn from outside, right? What I mean? Yeah, okay. So that's the theories behind it. So that is the theory. Okay, because researchers have come up with various theories and they come up with their own the theory. So you use this theory says this and B says no, it's you are born with the language acquisition. A says no, you don't have to be born with the virus. Let's say intelligence. Yeah? People say intelligence is derived or got it direct from your parents, whereas some researchers say that intelligence can be obtained from your environment as you grow older, as you grow up. Okay, so your research has to look into this let's say second language acquisition theory. So there are pros and cons. So your result di mana? Pro or con? So you have to refer and relate to the theory that you use. And you use that and form a framework to see how this theory is being used in your research. Okay. So this is an example of how you put a framework lah, yeah. So if you find it a bit of difficulty in looking at how framework is developed, sometimes what I did, and I do it also, pergi je, you come up with maybe a sentence or something, say statement, and you go into images, you put the word framework, right? You want to look into, let's say, ESL learners, framework theories or something, and you go to images, and you can and then Google will give you a lot of ideas, and you can link and go to that link and visit the page or the website. Okay, and read and understand whether it's relevant to your work or not. Sometimes you can adapt from that. You know what I mean? Okay, Bashira asked me, it is how they acquire the language based on, oh, yes, to Bashira, thank you. All right. So, okay, I'm trying to give like examples from various backgrounds, yeah, so that you are, okay, be more connected lah. Pagi ni. Okay. All right. So that's about the theoretical framework. You must explain the underlying theory of your study, what is your theoretical framework of your study, and how did the findings of your study contribute to the theory your study is based on. Okay, you can't just do something that is tak ada based on anything. Even the foundation, a house needs a foundation. Sama juga, your research needs a foundation, and your foundation is the theory that you based on. Okay, right. Thank you. Okay, this is I'm giving you the way how it should be done lah, ya. On the critical analysis of related research work, you have the panggil the framework of your how you want to put in chapter 2. You put it in a table of content what you want to do, and then you fill in the information under subheadings and the headings. Yeah. So as I said just now, macam yang the first part tadi, you create several categories of subheadings. You already have that. Okay. And then second, misalnya tadi saya sebut tentang leadership styles kan, and job performance. So those are already one big headings. Okay. Leadership styles, job performance. And number two, second, you make notes for each article you read. Right. And then group them into categories. When you read and make notes on the article, please make sure that you put the information, the details. Who are the authors, the sources, where to get it from, what is the name of the publications, yeah. And remember, it has to be, if please do something that is kalau boleh 5 years above lah, yeah. But of course, some theories, some models are based in the old time, yeah, macam Piaget semua tu, right? Dah lama kan? Then it's okay, right? But for the current one, please make sure that that is not more than 10 years, probably 5 and above. All right. Number 4, group several articles in one category. You should compare the studies within a category focusing on similar and conflicting findings. Like I said just now, the pros and the cons of two different ideas, different research. Okay, because you want to later discuss. Your discussion is based on the previous findings. And fifth, since you have grouped the articles into several categories, you can now compare the articles across categories. Now you have a big picture of the studies reviewed. Okay, like as I said just now, kalau you nak buat, for example, if you want to do a relationship, so the previous research shows no relationship. The other group of research says or indicates there is a relationship between these variables. So there are two different ideas there. So that is how you categorize. You can also categorize in terms of the demographic profiles, gender. The gender plays important role in the findings, right? There are reasons. You agree or not? Gender plays roles. Sebab tu it's important to have good demographic profiles in your research if you do quantitative analysis, quantitative data study. And methods, okay, dan juga demographic profile, age and gender. So that is also another different categories that you must not overlook that matter. Okay. Right, tips when you do your writing on literature review. Please use linking words. What are linking words? Can you give examples of linking words? Apa linking words? Or conjunctions? Fazrul?
We can use according to.
According to, again, according to, okay. No, linking words, use, these are the tips when you do the data writing. However, lagi?
Yeah, as
Je.
I forgot how I use it, but yeah, there's a method.
Similarly, in addition, because, more importantly, however, other than that, on the other hand, and the list could go on and on and on. And of course, each linking word is to use for different context. Maksudnya, whether you want to show similarities or you want to show an opposition or differences. Okay, so this is very important because when you put linking words, it shows that you are serious about your writing. It shows that you want to explain to the readers, your supervisors in particular, that look, I've done this. I know my literature review. I've read this, and I see that some of the points in the previous literature, they have the answers, but different from my findings. So you write, however, okay, on the other hand, okay, things like that. So it shows that you really read your stuff and you put in your own writings on how you actually explain your your work, in relation to the previous literature. Okay, so you put not only in terms of the sentence, but also you put the paragraphs nicely using linking words. So that is the flow of your writing. Right. And please avoid using contoh, Wilson 1992 says. Don't use that. Try to avoid, but instead you use appropriate verbs such as argues, claims, states. You keep on changing lah. You don't use the same word over and over again. So that is to give some variety of your writing. Okay. Wilson 1990 states or argues that blah 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 blah, so on and so forth. However, okay, so that is how you actually show that you are writing and you are involved in the literature review. It's not just about a matter of copy paste here and there. And at the end of the day, you don't understand, your supervisor also don't understand where are you heading. Okay, right. So maksudnya di sini, paraphrasing a source that is not your own, use your own words. How do you use your own words? Okay, it will be a book. You have to work harder a little bit for those without the TESOL background because we are writing in English. However, some of the things that you can do is to use synonyms. You change the words, yeah. But do not just simply go for dictionary synonym that is totally giving a different context. Not bombastic words. Use words, simple words that you understand. Okay, and break up. If it's a long sentence, break up the sentence into simpler sentence or shorter sentences and rephrase them. Okay, all right. That's one way of doing. Okay, so before you begin searching for literature, you need a clearly defined topic, and I'm sure at this stage you already have your clearly defined topic, and it's not really a problem for you to actually putting it the items or the list of what you want to do in your chapter 2. Okay, you already put it in the table of content. Dah siap-siap dah cantik in the table of content how you put it nicely. All right, organization is very important. It means that you organize your thoughts well. Okay, and then your writing also follow the steps that you need. Okay, sorry, I need to switch on the right. Okay, this is an example yang saya berikan tadi earlier, iaitu let's say in the first page on chapter 2 literature, second page actually, introduction, the body of the literature and a theoretical framework, dan juga conclusion. Similarly, something like this, all right? This is a topic on the effectiveness of video demonstration and traditional classroom teaching style in learning first aid in health education class. Okay, so maksudnya this is health education class in secondary school student, secondary school, yeah. Okay, you have the introduction. In general, you talk about the importance of physical health education, the curriculum, what are the topics covered in Form 1, 2, 3, if you're referring to lower secondary, okay? And then you touch on the teaching styles, okay? The teaching styles, there you put the theoretical framework. What are, I'm giving an example here, the spectrum of teaching style. So there is a framework for teaching style. So you put that framework on the teaching style. Sometimes you may use the particular framework, or there are also times when you adapt that framework and put it into your overall framework. Okay. And then in your literature also you must talk about the traditional classroom style approach because you mentioned that in your topic. Okay, so what are the traditional classroom teaching styles you are referring to that you do in your research? So you choose two models, model 1 and model 2. I don't have to tell you lah apa dia kan, right? And you also talk about the non-traditional, which are video demonstration and online teaching, because this has been conducted during MCOs and most classes are conducted online. Therefore, this student wanted to look into the effectiveness of teaching first aid using these two styles. Non-traditional, they pilih online teaching and video demonstration. And the conclusion of the review. That is a very basic one. And of course, underneath probably you may have the subheadings that actually explain a little bit more about aspects in the findings about classroom style, health education, and also non-traditional classroom styles. Okay, all right. I hope this give you a clearer idea of picture. Thank you. So far, so good. Any question for chapter 2? So far, so good. Lagi gesture
Excuse
sikit.
me.
Yes.
Okay, is my voice clear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a question for chapter 2. Since we are reviewing literature, should we talk about our research at all, as it how our research differs from past research, or should we leave that completely to chapter 3?
Um, Basically, literature review is to explain about and to review the previous work on the variables that you have in the topic. Yeah. So you are not you may mention somehow, let's say learning styles. So you have reviewed the previous work, and then you put that a statement, or to end the statement of that by saying that in this research, in your research to be specific, in this research will focus only on this particular aspect. So you are explaining about you are not comparing. Okay, not, I think the word comparing is not really suitable, but rather you are saying that you are doing this, even though you cover a bit a little bit more comprehensive regarding the particular variable or topic, but of course you're focusing on this aspect. Yeah, who's asking the question just now?
Me. Thank you, Doctor.
Who is that? I think
Nordina from TESO.
okay, that all right. Okay, Nordina. Okay, so do you get what I mean there?
Yes, so we don't
Yeah.
actually compare. We only say that we
No.
take some parts.
Yes, yeah. When
Thank
when you mention your own work, it means that you are kind of communicating, you are relating your work with the previous, because many cases, literature review is only just stating this, copy, I would say maybe harsh bit lah, to copy paste and things like that. Right now, it's just like taking and put it there. But don't say the word compare, do not relate it to your research. By relating to your research, that means you are making a point that there is a connection. That's the reason why you do the review. That is why the importance of previous research importance and also relevant to your research work. Okay, Nordina? Right. Okay, thank you. So kita dah berapa jam dah? From 10, 11:30. Most welcome. All right, so I think we just go on for chapter 3. Chapter 3 is actually very important, kan? Very it's interesting, right? If you have gone through yang saya sebut tadi, you really understand your variables, you know what you want to do, you already found your target group, your population, your samples, and you have the instruments. No problem to in chapter 3, because chapter 3 is just like restating and explaining to people what you do. Okay, so what you should have listed in chapter 3 are the introduction, research design, instruments, population and sampling, data collection procedures, and the conclusion. So I put there, research methodology is like writing a recipe. It's like, it should be written like a recipe. How? Why a recipe? You want to bake a cake, you've got to follow the process one by one. What comes first, what comes next. And the ingredients must be accurate. Okay? You can't just simply leave any aspects because it will not work. Sama lah macam tu. So if you follow that, so you see that you don't want to leave any important aspects in your research methodology. In other words, you don't make assumptions. You don't leave details. Okay? And you can explain it in your own words because this is your research. You know what you want to do. Okay? Let's say if you want to talk about your questionnaires use, you just don't say, oh, this is adapted from, let's say, Maslow. This is an example. But how many questions? How many sections? How many items? Okay, and which sections refers to what? Explain in detail. Do not assume that people know what you are doing. Right. So again, introduction and conclusion is a must. Tak adalah saya kata must, tetapi it shows that you are above orang lain. You can do something better because you know what you want to introduce your topic, your chapter. Next one, introduction. Preamble, yeah, a short introduction or preamble restating the problem statement, the purpose of the study, and the research questions and the hypothesis if you have. Again, it's like a repetition, but it's okay. It's to remind you as well as the readers that of what you are doing. All right, and then discuss the subsections involved throughout the chapter. Okay, moving on very quickly. Okay, I'm tired of talking. Why don't you read silently about this? Tell me what's missing. This is an example of an introduction. What's missing, do you think?
Can you show us the previous slide?
Oh, we are talking about introduction. Fazrul, kita tak cakap pasal introduction, an example of how a simple preamble or introduction should be written. This is just an example. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Example untuk introduction saja. Because I said just now, introduction tu kita ada the problem statement, purpose of the study, research questions, and maybe hypothesis if you have hypothesis. So, is there anything missing? Is it a good example or a good introduction? Yeah.
I think it's missing the hypothesis because I can't see
Okay,
any
all right.
of it.
Okay, hypothesis. Hypothesis is yeah, it's not kata apa mandatory, but if you have hypothesis in your research, then you can put it here. Tadi siapa tulis tadi? Chat. Nadira says that the research objectives are missing. But then it says that the purpose of this research is to investigate the involvement of outdoor education programs. So that is the objective. Yeah, purpose is the objective. This is okay for me. This is okay. If you want to give on kata a more elaborate, you may miss the problem statement. You know the issue about this. What's the reason? You know what causes the research to be conducted? Okay, because you want to talk. Because later you want to talk about the research methodology. Somehow or other it involves or it relates to the issue or the background of the study. The issues why you want to conduct this. Okay, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong. Cuma missing that one particular aspect. Okay, next slide. Read this. What do you think that is missing here? The objectives of the study?
Yeah, same. The objective to study, the I mean the RQ, the RO and RQs, and also the what was it? The hypothesis itself is still missing.
Okay, okay, yes. The research objective or the aims, yes, true. I think that is very important, okay? It gives a very good explanation to introduce about what is chapter 3 going to be, okay? By giving the, you know, subtitle, subcategory, the second subtopic, this and this and that, right? But then it missing something there, right? Very good. That means you got it. All right, moving on. Thank you. Well done. So this is the research design, just an example of how you put the research design. This is, I think the title something about the previous one that I mentioned just now about the effectiveness of video demonstration in traditional classroom styles, in health education. So this research she did on 2 different groups, and one is given two are given treatments, and both one with a traditional style, the other one with video demonstration. Okay, so how is she going to find out the effectiveness or the understanding of both in teaching first aid? She gave exams or tests. So by analyzing the data, she can see whether which is better, traditional approach ataupun video demonstration. So you put your research, the whole aspects or the flow of your research in a form of a framework or a design. Please do it. So it gives you an immediate picture, idea about what you are doing as a whole. Okay, in a whole. Some other you're doing descriptive, practical research, experimental, action, correlation, and case study. You can put the design in such a way to explain your types of research. Yeah, the analysis, a set of methods and procedures. So this is put all aspects are put in one particular diagram ataupun framework. Okay. All right, so this is an example. I hope you have done it. I hope you have it in your thesis. Okay, moving on. This is a very important thing. Research instrument, you choose research instrument whether you use an existing one, okay, that is readily available. Misalnya, for example, you are doing on psychology, personality test. There is a lot of personality test instruments that are being used, yeah, standard one. Or you adapt to meet your needs. But however, you must describe in detail how you adapt that. What are the changes that you made? To build, I would suggest don't build your instruments unless you are, excuse me, unless you are doing qualitative, you want to interview. So you build the question based on your, a lot of things, background or the research or the theory. The instrument, you not just click to your mind and just, oh, this is what I want to do. It has to be relevant to the previous, in chapter 2 and chapter 1, what are your issues, what are the problems, what you want to identify, the objectives, to answer your research questions. You measure the research questions. Yeah? That is why it is measurable, how it can be measured. Okay, your research questions are questions that you need answers in your research. Okay, and the instrument is a tool to use to answer your questions. So mention clearly and in detail each of the measuring instrument that the researcher would use to collect data. And please make sure that a rationale should be given for their use. Why do you use this? Yeah, all right. So, so my advice is that it's important to find your instrument earlier before you actually start talking about the topic. Okay, you can create the topic once you have all in place actually. Okay, all right. So again, in this research instrument, when you want to talk, when you want to write about this in your chapter 3 methodology, explain in detail the process, the steps, the items, how many categories, how many dimensions, each dimension refers to what, okay? And for example, you have something on psychology and then questions ada 20. But however, question 1 and question 2, even though they all mix together, is actually referred to the cognitive level. Question 11 to 20 is on the affective level. Okay, so they must have dimensions for all the 20 or 30 or 50 questions or items that you choose for your instrument. Okay. Or even if you are observed, what do you use in the observation? You use videotapes, you have some kind of rubrics. Okay, those are instruments, right? You must explain how do you use it. Okay, so any question on the instruments? Yeah, this is to choose to collect your data, right? Okay, next one. This is an example I've given it previously. Let's say your content of your sections, yeah. Inilah dia. For example, you have section A, demographic profile. Explain in your instrument. Okay, your instrument consists of how many items? Okay, the questions, how many questions? and you explain the type of questions are single and multiple choice items, please explain, all right? Otherwise, we don't have to go through into where is the appendix for your research, for your questionnaire. You put it all in your research methodology because you want to explain in detail, you know, the recipe to your supervisor, to your readers. Let's say, for example, section B is about DRAPC principle. DRAPC ni is when you do first aid lah, iaitu apa DR, danger response, airway, breathing and circulation principle. Okay, in saving lives lah, in first aid. So the questions consist, the dimension of DRABC principle consists of 13 questions, multiple choice items. And section C is about satisfaction of teaching approach, consists of 7 items of questions. And this is a Likert scale question. 1 is what until 5 is what. Explain in detail, jangan malas. Alright. Okay, next one. Population and sampling. This is also very important. Okay, you understand what is population and you have decided on who you want to take as your samples or your respondents. Okay, population is bigger in your target population and accessible population or sample is your sampling. Okay, for example, you want to do a survey on the attitudes of parents towards art education in secondary schools. All right, so your population, your sample adalah parents of your students who take art class in your schools, for example. Okay, so you have focus there, you have narrowing down the target population. Okay, for example, let's say the big population here is the country, kemudian the target population, you focus a little bit more smaller area like a state or a district, and then smaller school, or clan, inshallah. Move on, next. Okay, these are the samples. I'm sure you have learned about this. Okay, the sampling techniques, sampling method you must explain. Yeah, why do you use samples? You don't explain balik or textbook explanation again about let's say Creswell mentions that a survey is the best way of conducting this particular research. You don't need to do that. You just explain what you do in your research, okay? And what are the sampling techniques that you use. You use random sampling technique because this and that and this and why, okay, and how, okay? So in your data analysis, you refer them as respondents. All right. Moving on. This is for social sciences, okay? Now, okay, this one. All right. This is the method. I was quite late. I mean, I missed Dr. Farid's, and there's a question about calculating sample size. So these are some of the ways, not only following one particular scholar ataupun guna Morgan sahaja, right? You can use statistical sampling formula. Number 2, you can also use Roscoe rule of thumb, di mana sample size should be more than 30 and less than 500. So I hope Ranika is here, so you don't have to worry about the number of sample size that you find difficulties in getting because your population is very small. Yeah? Sekolah menengah and form 6 among. Right, or you can use Crabtree and Morgan using the sampling table. It's already being described for you how many population, how many sample is relevant for that. Or Sakaran and Boji 2013 on sampling frame, or you can use your power analysis to determine sample size. Okay, so there are different ways of doing, so you can just choose, okay, to suit your sample size. Okay, because kalau you want to have hundreds of population samples misalnya, it might not be easy, it might be a bit difficult for you as degree students, for example, because of the COVID, because of the accessibility and things like that. And please remember, you can also use simple as a case study. A case study may not require many samples. Right, moving on. Yes, Nadira, you have to explain if I'm not wrong. If you want to submit the ethics, you got to um don't remember whether the number is should be stated, the number, the sample size, but basically is who. Let's say if you require minors, yeah, minor 12 years below, that requested really that you must need the permission of the parents. So it's about the who rather than the numbers. Okay, right. And 3.4 data collection procedure. For example, if you use questionnaire, you go for pilot testing first to ensure that your questions are near perfect and nothing is missing that will encounter ambiguity. Okay, that is verifying a questionnaire lah. Ataupun you can use a standard question that has been used over and over again, that has already been given the reliability and the validity of the questions from the previous research. Dalam articles or the journals, they already mentioned the measure of the results of the Chromebook Alpha for your pilot testing. Okay, and in order for you to collect data, of course, I can talk about this chapter berjam-jam juga if you want. So actually, a lot of ways on how you want to collect the data depending on your research. Yeah, I told you just now. Apart from interviews, you can do apart from questionnaires, you can do interviews. You can also do observation. You can do like kind of time diary collection. Yeah, banyak. Sama ada you use quantitative or qualitative data. There are various ways in collecting the data. Do not just stick and confine to your thought of it has to be interview and questionnaire. No. All right. And if I may suggest at this level, please try not to use mixed method. Okay. You don't have much time for mixed method. All right. But if it's a small scale, maybe it's okay lah. Maybe the question is about 10 only, and then you need 1 or 2 interviews to get in-depth understanding of your research problem. Okay. And then you analyze data, you use descriptive SPSS, which will be explained further by Dr. Muzlia nanti. So please attend the class, it's very, very important. And I also learned a lot from Dr. Muzlia sendiri. All right, and now moving on to the next one, which is very important. This is the secret that I've been telling my students, in order for you to see what your work, how you organize your work, is to have this sequential process. Not many people have this actually. So if you can see, I ask my students to provide a table. I call it a matrix table, which I learned from my supervisor before, professor, right? And from there, you can see what you have done, whether it is nice or not, whether it's actually, connecting, measuring what you want to know, the research questions. So you have 1, 2, 3. We have done the practice just now, your research objectives, and you have your research questions, 1 to 1. So question 2, of course, from the statement research objective number 2. Research question 3 is a statement from research objective number 3. If you use models, this is when you use the model that I also talk about in chapter 2, right? Whatever models that you want to use, theories, okay, relevant to the variables that you use. Job satisfaction ke ataupun leadership style. Or leadership style, then you use theory apa, siapa, right? And then in order for you to measure your questions, to find answers to research question 1, what tools do you use? What are the instruments? Put it down. Okay, what dalam bentuk table. And then what statistical analysis that you're going to use for this. Right, some of you, especially I think Art dan juga Tassel mungkin may not use, many of you may not use quantitative data analysis, but you can also use this. You can use this and give you a direction and also compartmentalize the ideas in a form of framework macam ni. Okay, see next one. Ni contoh dia. Okay, you can read that. We have research objective number 1. Research question number 1. Sama je dengan tu. Research objective number 1. But how do you to measure that? You use DRABC principle and procedure tests. And how are you going to analyze the answer or the results? You use frequency and percentage because you use test. This particular student, remember just now, she used test on first aid to the student. So the student have to answer the question to the test. So she used test, you use frequency and percentage to see which how much they got, grades and percentage. Some are similar to research objective number 2, and the questions that need to be measured by using DRAPSI principle and procedure test again. And she used methods of frequency and percentage. And then to see the differences, you want to see two things. You want to measure, you want to make comparison between the two. Therefore, you use t-test, okay? And you look at the mean and standard deviation of both by having an independent t-test, okay? And all right, and this section, she used questionnaire that she put in section C on the satisfaction of teaching approach, a bit of questionnaire about it. So here, a little bit of mixed method, the manner she used test as well as interview questionnaire. Okay. Okay. Any questions so far? I hope it's very clear. Thank you. Next one. Okay, another example, similar, cuma yang ini saya letakkan theory and model sebab kalau you lihat ya, based on this sequential tadi, you can see research objective, research questions in chapter 1, the theory and models are in chapter 2, instruments and analysis you explain in chapter 3. Okay, and it is used in chapter 4 actually. So it covers all and you see that it's all relevant. Okay. I hope you follow this. You put out your information in a form of matrix table, and I'm sure your supervisor will be very, 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 very happy. Okay. Okay, so this is an example. Just now I'm talking about physical activity level, and the research question is what is the level of physical activity involvement, and the yellowish items too, I put in yellow because I just give an example. It's not following the actual thing. Yeah. So let's say you are using theory of plan, behavior, ataupun self-determination theory relevant to your level of activity. And of course, you have mentioned this in your chapter 2. Okay. Right. And what instrument do you use? You use a standard international physical activity questionnaire ataupun IPAC. Right, it has been known, okay, or the validity and reliability. And you use descriptive analysis, which just means standard deviation. Okay, and research objective 2, you have research question number 2, and to answer that, you use another instrument, different instrument, not the same one. Okay, and because you are talking about depression, and you use CESDR-10 questionnaire from the Center of Epidemiologic Studies Depression Scale, Radloff 1997. Okay, of course, the model or theory you use behavioral theory as in chapter 2, and you use mean standard deviation as in your descriptive analysis. Since you are referring to, you want to see the relationship between number 1 and number 2 between physical activities and depression. Of course, you use correlation for your analysis. Okay. So far, so good? Yes or no?
Yes, doctor.
Thank you. Only one person, at least, you know. Okay, sure, if you want to. All right, next move, next name. Okay, so conclusion, don't forget penutup. You summarize the whole thing. For example, like this chapter, discuss the research methodology of the study and describe the research design, population, sample, instrumentation, and data collection process, and ethical considerations. And chapter 4 will cover the data analysis. But do not conclude by saying this, but then in your actual subheading tak ada. Contohnya tak buat pun instrumentation. Tak boleh ya. Whatever you mention, you must honor your statement that you have done it. That shows that you are a good researcher. You honor your word. All right. Well, research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought. That is your research gap, and that's the reason why you write for you write your paper. Okay, thank you so much. That's the end of my session today. Almost 2 hours. For all of you here, each and every one of you, there are about 32 or 30 lah students who are here, which I think tak ramai sangat pun, and I congratulate you for being here and would like to learn and listen to this talk for today. Let's go with that. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mute Lamun. Any questions maybe? Inshallah, Nur Hakimah, I'm sure. Any other questions maybe? Yeah, many journal do not put the questionnaire, but sometimes if you look seperti Nadira, ya, Nadira, sometimes kalau you go through the articles, in the methodology ataupun the analysis of data, they have the table with the items. So that is another way of getting it, okay? Or you can also type find questionnaires for personality tests, or you just try and type it if you can find. Or if it's very, very important and you think that it's really, really equivalent and relevant to your research and the researcher did not put the item, the questionnaire, you write an email to the researcher. Okay, you can actually Google, yeah. Most researchers, especially scholars, they have their website or they have their Google Scholar. Everywhere you can find sama ada dalam apa panggil all this link, yeah. ORCID, okay, banyak, and then which university, and you can always contact and ask for their questionnaire. I did that, all right. So that is relevant because sometimes they or even they say that you can get the questionnaire and please contact us because you're not allowed to use without getting permission. Okay, and you write to the organization, email them. Now it's very easy. You can just email them, and I'm sure they will be very happy to give. Okay. Nadira, have I answered your questions?
Sorry about the connection just now, Dr. Mawarni.
No worries.
So I was about to thank you for your slot on reviewing chapter 1 to chapter 3 before I froze. So I am supposed to conclude the session, taking over from Dr. Yati, who has a prior engagement now. So do you have any other questions for Dr. Mawarni?
Puan Moon,
Yes.
Dr. Mawar, can I just add to your answer?
Sure, thanks.
I just joined.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
How to find the questionnaire? Another way also kan students can find the thesis. Kalau dari kan, kalau dari jurnal memanglah dia orang tak beri full questionnaire, tapi if you can find the thesis ataupun you look for thesis at the back tu ada appendix, itu surely dia boleh dapat full questionnaire.
True.
Kan?
Thank you. I forgot
Yes.
about it. Very true. Okay,
Okay.
Nadira, you can find that. Yeah, true. And each library, some other university kita ke or other university, they always have their repository ataupun where you can actually go and get the thesis. Yeah.
All right. So thank you very much, Dr. Leah, for that addition. Any more questions? from the floor?
I guess that's about it.
Yeah.
Okay, you can all talk to your supervisors, all right? And I'm happy that you all are here to listen. And I hope a smooth journey for all of you and good luck. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much again, Dr. Mawarni, for your very clear next session on how to review your chapter 1 till chapter 3. Right. So what I am sending in the chat box is the attendance list for today. So please register for today's session. Right. Don't forget to register. And to Dr. Mawarni, thank you again. And to all of you attendees here, thank you for attending. And I would like to remind you of the next session, which is scheduled on the 19th of May with Dr. Roslaili Anwar, development of teaching aids with selected models. I think you should have all the list of the different sessions. So the next one is on the 19th of May. So please include that in your schedule or your calendar. So I think we could have, if you are all able to switch on your camera, we can have a quick photo session before we go with Dr. Mawarni. Fazrul, nak buka kamera Fazrul? Fazrul banyak cakap tadi ya, Fazrul. Apa tu, Dodina. Lagi apa lagi? Hakimah. Those are a few names that I recognize from today's session. Okay. Let's take a quick photo. So, siapa dah buka tu, thank you very much. Okay, this is the first slide sebab ada banyak, ada ramai. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the next slide. 1, 2, 3. The next one. Oh, okay. Ada 2 slide je. Okay, cukup. Alright. So, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Dr. Mawarni, Dr. Leah, Dr. Yati, who is also joining us on her phone. Right. So, I hope everybody would have benefited a lot from the session. I definitely benefited as well. Oh, baru buka Fazrul. Sekejap, kita ambil lagi satu. Siap, Fazrul. Fazrul, buka lah. Syian. Fazrul, mana?
Fazrul. Buka Fazrul.
Hilang dah Fazrul.
I made a mistake.
Okay. Mana mukanya?
Dia terbuka. Dia on. Thank you very much, Puan Moon and Dr. Mawarni and everybody. See you next time.
Bye-bye, everybody. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you,
Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Doctor.
Happy weekend.
Selamat solat Jumaat to the guys.
Thank
Selamat
you.
sambung raya esok.
Okay, Kak Leah, thank you very much. Nak join yang apa? Webinar tu pula?
Yes, taklimat. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Moon.
Okay,